Bears and Packers. Steve Smith facing his former team, the Saints and Cowboys. Some good games week 4. Hi, I'm Timothy Claiborne. Welcome to Pick 6. We got week 4 on the way. We got some exciting games. Let's get it started. The Bears and the Packers play in the longest rivalry in NFL history. The Packers travel to Chicago to face the Bears. We have a lot going on in this game. It's a great rivalry. The games are always close. And my first point will be Jay Cutler going up against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers struggled last week in Detroit, losing for only the second time in his career against the Lions. He only threw for 186 passing yards, and he had a touchdown, but and one interception. The offense looked stagnant against him. The Bears on Monday night had a really good game against the Jets. I mean, total package, total game, a pick on the first pass attempt for Geno Smith. Jay Cutler looked very confident in the pocket. He threw it down the field to Brandon Marshall and Martellus Bennett. Matt Forte had a pretty good game. I think the Bears and Packers, it will be a high-scoring game. Both defenses are very limited in what they can do in the secondary. As Charles Tillman has went out for the Bears, the Packers still have improved. Their secondary has improved from years past, including last year. Aaron Rodgers has Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. He has a running game. I think Eddie Lacy will get back on track against his Bears defense that does give up big plays with the run. I think Aaron Rodgers will feed off of that and have over a 300-yard passing game. Jay Cutler will have a huge game with Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, of course, Martellus Bennett, Matt Forte, all those guys, because the Packers secondary has struggled this year. I really don't think it's improved. I think it's really pretty much been the same as last year. And I think the Packers will have an advantage because Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the game. My second point is Brandon Marshall versus the Packers secondary. He'll be going up against Tramon Williams mostly because they like to put him on the far right, on Jay Cutler's right, but he never know. He might be going up against Alshon Jeffrey too, and that's Tramon Williams I'm talking about. But Clinton Dix will have to be an important factor in stopping him. He's going to have to be on Marshall. I say they can double team Marshall and just play Jeffrey one-on-one. You can't double both of them because then the tight end, Martellus Bennett, have a big game. So I think you have to double Brandon Marshall, but I still think he'll have over 100 yards receiving. I think Jay Cutler will find him for some big plays and some big-time conversions on third down in this game. My final point for the Bears and Packers will be the Packers wide receivers versus the Bears defensive backs. You got Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson going up against Kyle Fuller, the Bears' first-round draft pick, and Tim Jennings. And I think the Packers will have success, not just because Aaron Rodgers is throwing them the ball, but because they're very talented wide receivers. You got Jordy Nelson, 6'2", the height advantage against Kyle Fuller or Tim Jennings, and then you have Randall Cobb, the ability. He's not just a fast wide receiver, but he's a speedy, quick wide receiver who can play in the slot. Reminds me a lot of Wes Welker, pure route running skills, great hands. And I think they'll have a good advantage against the Bears. It'll be up to the safeties, Chris Conley and Major Wright, to have and Adrian Wilson to have a big impact in double teaming them and playing over the top, forcing Rodgers to make short passes because they are game-breaking wide receivers. And if they can have big catches, the Packers will have a good advantage. In the end, I still think the Packers will get to 2-2, get back on track. They will win in Chicago with the score of 30-21. You got the 2-1 Detroit Lions facing off against the 1-2 New York Jets. And my first point will be the battle of the quarterbacks. The second-year pro Geno Smith out of West Virginia going up against the first overall pick of the 2009 NFL Draft, the 6-year veteran Matthew Stafford. Now Matthew Stafford is a great thrower. He throws it sidearm, overhead. He has great receivers. He has the best receiver in the game right now, Calvin Johnson, ace on to. He has Golden Tate. He also has Reggie Bush, and he has Brandon Pettigrew. He has all these weapons, and so I think he will have success against a pretty weak secondary from the Jets. Geno Smith, he's going up against Ndamukong Suh. He's going up against a pretty good Lions defense that had a lot of success against the explosive Packers offense that the Jets the week before let Aaron Rodgers throw over 300 yards on, and the Lions held Rodgers to 185. I think he will struggle I mean, he struggles a lot. I mean, he forces turnovers, and that's gonna be the microcosm of them losing this game against the Lions. The Jets can't stop the best wide receiver in the NFL, Calvin Johnson. They're not gonna win this game. They're not gonna have a chance. They're already struggle with against Jordy Nelson, of course, Brandon Marshall, two 6'2", 6'4" receivers. They're gonna struggle against a 6'5" receiver. I mean, the best wide receiver, got great hands, can jump out the building. Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback that's going to be throwing to him. D. Milner is going to be in trouble when he defends him. He struggled last year as a rookie. He's really going to struggle when he defends Calvin Johnson. He's a big body frame receiver. He runs very fast, long stride. I think he'll dominate. I think he'll have probably 200 yards receiving on him. I mean, it looks like he's going to have that big type of game. You know, maybe the Jets be competitive, and, you know, Matthew Stafford has to go to Calvin Johnson, you know, make some big plays. So I can see that happening. And finally, Reggie Bush versus the Jets front seven, one of the better front sevens in the NFL with Muhammad Wilkerson up there. And I think he'll have some type of success. I don't think he's going to get 100 yards rushing. I think the Jets will stop him. Again, that will force Matthew Stafford to go up in the air. Hence, Calvin Johnson having a big day. But I think they'll stop him. They'll keep him to about 75, 80 yards. And that will really probably help their secondary because they can put their linebackers in the better coverage positions on the tight end, Brandon Pettigrew. Also trying to stop Reggie Bush in the pass game is going to be hard for them. They can't match up man to man. They're going to have to play a little zone. And that's really going to just affect their whole secondary game. So if they can stop Reggie Bush running the ball and forcing Matthew Stafford to throw, I think that would help the Jets a lot more than the run and play action off of that. And I think the final score of this Jets and Lions game will be 31-13. The Lions just have too many weapons for the Jets to handle. Geno Smith turns the ball over a couple of times, and the Lions go off and start 3-1 in the first 4 weeks of the season. Tom Brady travels to Arrowhead Stadium with the Patriots to face Alex Smith and the Kansas City Chiefs. My first one will be, will Jamal Charles play? He has the ankle injury. He didn't play last week. I think if he doesn't play, the Chiefs will struggle. If he does play, they'll be very competitive in this game. My second point is Tom Brady versus the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense in the first 8 weeks last year was one of the best defenses. Towards the latter part of the season, they started giving up big plays. They were exposed. The pass rushing wasn't there with Justin Houston and Tom Ali. They're still there, but they lost their defensive playmaker and captain, Derrick Johnson, for the year with the torn Achilles. That's going to be a big loss for the season. And that's where Rob Gronkowski, who probably would have had to go up against Derrick Johnson, will have a big day against the Patriots. Their secondary is questionable, so the Patriots probably will have success, you know, with Brandon LaFell and, of course, Danny Amendola and all those guys. My third and final one is Alex Smith going up against the great Patriots secondary. You know, you got Darrell Reeves, the second best corner. You got Devin McCourty back there. And I think he will have some success with Dwayne Bowe, but in the end, the Patriots are just too much for the Chiefs. They blew them out in Arrowhead Stadium 40-10. The Eagles and Redskins played one of the most exciting games last week. The Eagles won, as you know, in Philly. Nick Foles had a big second half after the Redskins got out to a big early lead. And I think that they will play their first full game against the 49ers this Sunday at Levi Stadium. I think LaShawn McCoy will have success against a depleted 49ers defense with no NaVorro Bowman, Alden Smith there. I think he'll have a pretty good game. The Eagles will wear out the 49ers with their upbeat offensive tempo that Chip Kelly runs with Nick Foles and, you know, Jeremy Maclin, Sean McCoy, like I said, Darren Sproles, Riley Cooper, and that great offensive line. I think he'll have over 150 yards rushing. He'll lead the Eagles to probably a win. I don't know yet. This game is really pretty much a toss-up to me. The score is going to be really close when I tell you. My second point will be Nick Foles versus Colin Kaepernick. Of course, whichever quarterback plays better, their team will have the best chance to win. Nick Foles, he has his receivers, like I said earlier. Colin Kaepernick has some really good receivers in Michael Crabtree and Quan Bolden. We don't know about Vernon Davis with the ankle injury. He still has Frank Gore with the running game. He still has Carlos Rogers. And, I mean, he can run himself. I don't know why he doesn't run as much as he needs to run. I mean, he's so inconsistent. This 49ers offense in the first half is outscoring their opponents at a great rate, but in the second half, they only have scored 3 points in 3 games. I mean, it's just, that's not really good. I mean, 3 points in 3 games in the second half, that's 6 quarters, and you score 1 field goal. And that was just against the Bears. I mean, the Cowboys, they were up 28-3, I believe, in week 1, won 28-17. They were up against the Arizona Cardinals. Didn't score, they scored 17 points. They didn't score in the second half. They didn't score against the Bears in the second half. I think their offense really has to pick it up, and they have to play a full game like the Eagles, who haven't scored much in the first half and had to come back in the second half. I mean, I'd rather take the Eagles coming back than giving up a big lead like the 49ers. I think Colin Kaepernick will have a big game, though. He'll have a big game. I think this will be a game where he runs, he keeps plays a lot, make plays down the field with Michael Crabtree. The Eagles' defense is kind of suspect. I mean, they can make their plays, but they're kind of suspect in stopping the big plays. I think the loss, if Vernon Davis doesn't play, will be very significant with how Colin Kaepernick plays. He likes to taking shots down the field to him. My final point will be Frank Gore going up against the Eagles' defense. Eagles' defense, they gave up a lot of rushing yards to Alfred Morris last week. They gave up some rushing yards to Trent Richardson, as you know, in their Week 2 win against the Colts. And I think that Frank Gore, who still is a good running back, even though he's older, playing behind one of the best offensive line and having a good backup running back in Carlos Hyde from out of Ohio State, the rookie, he'll have a pretty good game, and he will lead the 49ers to a win, their second win of the season, 2-2, and their first win at Levi Stadium, as the 49ers will beat the Eagles 24-23. And for these final 2 games that I'm about to talk about, I'm going to bring on some special guests. They are my cousins. They're very close to me, and they're going to talk about these next 2 games with me. Alright, so I'll have some special guests here. Right here is my cousin Xanti. Say out to the camera.
Hi.
Okay, and right now, here is my other cousin, my first cousin, Xylon Honeycutt. And they'll come here and help me talk about these last 2 games for the week. And we're going to start off with the Panthers heading to Baltimore to face the Ravens. You got this Steve Smith facing his former team Saga right here. And it's going to be a pretty good game. I think he's going to have some success, of course, against his former team. Lon, what do you think he's going to do against his former team?
Yeah, I think he's going to do pretty good because he knows, like, the scheme and stuff.
Yeah. I think he's not going to have a dominant game because he's going up against his former teammates from a year ago, some of those guys. And they're going to know his techniques from practice. And they're probably going to want to get into him because, he trash talks a lot. That's who Steve Smith is. I think he's going to have a pretty good game against his former team. My next one will be Cam Newton versus Joe Flacco. As you know, Joe Flacco, a former Super Bowl MVP. Cam Newton, a former number 1 overall pick. Xanti, what do you think about Cam?
I sang the song there. Cam. Oh, Cam.
Cam. He believe in Cam. I believe in Cam too. I think he's gonna have a good game against the Ravens defense. I think it's gonna be way different than the Steelers game. I think he's gonna be able to move around the pocket, make big plays down the field. He has a star receiver in Kelvin Benjamin. You saw the different receiving touchdowns and different catches he had in the first 3 weeks. I mean, he's almost unguardable. I mean, he's a more athletic Calvin Johnson to me, in my opinion. He reminds me of Randy Moss, really. What do you think of Kelvin Benjamin?
Well, he's a good receiver.
I think my final, Joe Flacco, sorry about that. Joe Flacco will have a good game. He has Torrey Smith. Of course, he has Steve Smith, of course. They won't be able to run the ball against this front 7 for the Panthers, and that brings me to my final conclusion or point in this game. The Panthers have one of the best front 7s, but they were decimated last week. 200-yard rushers by the Steelers, the first time since 1985 that has happened for 2 Steelers running backs. I mean, they were just decimated. I mean, they just blew out. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't get out to the edge. They just were overplaying runs. I mean, they gave up an 81-yard touchdown. I mean, 81-yard run, not touchdown, but it led to a touchdown that play. Big Ben just seemed to have it rolling that night. I don't see Joe Flacco being able, or the Baltimore Ravens and Joe Flacco with Bernard Pierce, not Ray Rice, his thing. Being able to run against this front seven, I think they're going to fix the problems. Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis are going to lead that linebacking core. Luke Kuechly will have a big game, I say about 15, 16 tackles. I think the best middle linebacker right now in the NFL. He have a big game, and that will lead the Panthers to a win. I'm gonna go with the Panthers on this. It's gonna be really close. I'm gonna say 24-23. Xylon, what do you and Xanti think?
We both think Panthers. I guess 21-14.
All right, and that's the Panthers versus the Ravens.
3.
And Sunday Night Football has granted us another great game this weekend, as you have Drew Brees and the Saints heading to Dallas to face Tony Romo and the Cowboys. It's going to be a great game. You got all this talent and stardom on the field at once with Tony Romo and DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston. I mean, you got Sean Payton versus Jason Garrett. You have it all in AT&T Stadium, a.k.a. Jerry World. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it. And we're going to start off with, of course, the battle of the quarterbacks. Drew Brees, Tony Romo. I mean, two great quarterbacks, came from small colleges, one undrafted in Tony Romo, one drafted in the second round, thought to be too short to play the game of football, and now he's the 4th all-time leading passer in NFL history. You got Tony Romo, the Cowboys' all-time leading passer. Yes, more than Roger Staubach, more than Troy Aikman. I mean, he doesn't have a playoff win, but he has the stats to prove that he does belong in the NFL. He does belong as an all-time great in Cowboys history and NFL history. I think Drew Brees and Tony Romo, whichever quarterback out of the two plays better, their team will definitely win. 100% sure on that. I think the running game will be a factor too, but I think those quarterbacks are so good, these defenses are going to really have to play well to keep everything in front of them because they have big star receivers. Tony Romo, of course, Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Jimmy Graham for the Saints, and Drew Brees and Marcus Colston. What do you think about Drew Brees?
Yeah, Drew Brees, once again, like you said, I'm going to be really psyched to see this game. Drew Brees, he has multiple targets. He can get it out to running backs. He can get it out to the receivers, Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston, Brandon Cooks. You know they're going to try to run speedy plays.
Do you agree with him?
I agree.
All right, and then what about Tony Romo?
Tony Romo, he's going to try to find Dez Bryant, Beasley, and they're going to try to use DeMarco Murray.
Do you agree with him?
Yes.
See, I mean, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, both of these defenses, the same defense was advertised to be better than what they are so far in this season. The Cowboys, their defense was just told, I mean, people just said it was going to be horrible. But they played better. I think Drew Brees will have another great game like he did a year ago. I think Tony Romo will have a better game than he had in the Superdome. It will be a high-scoring game. My second point will be Drew Brees going up against, really this whole Cowboys defense. The Cowboys, Morris Claiborne, of course, if you didn't hear, got walked out of practice Tuesday because he was benched for Orlando Scandrick in this game. He will play. I don't know if he's going to start, but if he does, it doesn't really matter because I don't know if they can stop these central receivers. Again, like Xylon said, you got Brandon Cooks, you got Jimmy Graham, you got Colston, you got Pierre Thomas, the running backs. Mark Ingram's out, but you still got Kyrie Robinson. You still got Robert Meacham. You have all those guys. And the Saints have a pretty good offensive line. Drew Brees is going to get the ball out quickly, efficiently. The Cowboys, I don't think they have enough to stop all these weapons for the Saints. My third point will be Tony Romo versus the Saints secondary. I mean, it was advertised to be great, and I think it still has the potential to. You still got Keenan Lewis, you got Kenny Vaccaro, you got Jairus Byrd that they signed to a 6-year, $60 million contract this past summer. You got reserves like Raphael Bush, you got Patrick Robinson on the other side, you got Corey White in the slot. You got a good pass rush with Cameron Jordan and Junior Gillette. You got the likes of Curtis Lofton and David Hawthorne at the linebacker position. This defense has enough to be one of the best defenses. They have just struggled to having glued together, but it looked like last week against the Vikings, they really got it together kind of, and had a full, complete game. Tony Romo will have some success. I mean, the Cowboys have one of the best offensive lines. If not the best, one of the best. I mean, they'll give Tony Romo some time to find Dez and Terrence Williams. Of course, Jason Witten. Of course, running the ball with DeMarco Murray will set up those big passes. The Saints are still susceptible to the run, but they have done better this year against the run. This is going to be a great game. The atmosphere is going to be great. You know you're going to have the Cowboys fan, but the Saints fans travel well, especially in Dallas. There are a lot of Saints fans in Dallas. It's going to be pretty a mixed crowd out there. Remember the last time the Saints came to Dallas? The Cowboys lost to the Saints in Dallas 2 years ago with the score of a 31-34. Both teams are out of playoff contention. We are in week 4 of this season, so everything's free. The Cowboys are 2-1. The Saints are 1-2. It's gonna be a great game. My final point will be, how would the Cowboys cover Jimmy Graham? You know the Saints like to put him out wide in the traditional tight end position, in the slot, standing up as a tight end. I think the Cowboys, you know, Brandon Carr or Morris Claiborne or Orlando Scandrick will have their chance. You know, Rolando McClain, who they signed, probably won't play in this game, but they can put Justin Durant on them. You never know, they might put J.J. Wilcox. You never know who they're going to put on them. But I don't think they're going to be able to cover him really good. I mean, he's got a 6'7" height, a big body, 260. I mean, that's just, runs like a wide receiver, built like a wide receiver. And Drew Brees always seems to find him in different areas. They put him everywhere. He'll run a deep route. He'll run across the quick slant, the fade, of course, near the end zone. So if the Cowboys can't cover that, they won't be able to win, and I don't think they will. I think Jimmy Graham will have a big day, which will help the Saints beat the Cowboys in the shootout, like I said, 42-38 in Dallas. All right, now this is a new segment I like to call the best of the best, where me or Xylon or whoever it is, or just me by myself, will talk about the best of maybe the greatest offenses or linebackers or such and such. Today we're going to talk about the best of the best defenses in NFL history, like the Steel Curtain, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Buccaneers, last year's Seahawks, the 85 Bears, and I mean any other defenses, maybe the doomsday defense of the Cowboys in the 90s. Donna, which out of all those do you think is number one on your list?
Well, I would probably put the doomsday number one, simply because of the secondary.
Okay.
You know, with Deion Sanders.
I can understand that. Yeah, Deion, the best corner in NFL history. Yeah, he can take one side of the field away, and then they had the pass rush up there.
Yeah.
What about the 85 Bears?
85 Bears. Well, Refrigerator Perry.
Yeah, he was a big difference. I mean, they took the ball away a lot. I mean, I like the Bears, but I'm gonna go with the Steel Curtain. They just really dominated the 70s. I mean, 4 Super Bowls in a decade, unheard of. They dominated the league. I mean, they led the Steelers to those Super Bowls. What about the 2000 Ravens? Many people say they are the best. Do you believe so?
Well, they'll probably be second on my list. You know, with Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
He was in there making plays.
Yeah, Defensive Player of the Year that year, actually. I mean,
yeah.
That 2000 Ravens defense only held opponents to 10 points a game. That's, like, unheard of. Do you think the Seahawks of last year will ever be in that conversation?
I mean, eventually, but that time will have to come. I'm just not going to throw him on that list right away.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because Richard Sherman, I mean, you know, you got the Legion of Boom. It's really good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they gave up a lot of rushing. I mean, they gave over 200 yards rushing against the Rams last year.
Yeah.
The Rams, I mean, they only won, 4 games, I believe? I mean, the Rams, giving up 200 yards to the Rams, I mean, you can't put that as one of the best defenses, but, I mean, there's a lot of great defenses out there. But my number one, these are my top 3. I'm going to go with the Steel Curtain, the 85 Bears, and the 2000 Ravens. Your top 3?
Well, I'm going to go Doomsday, Steel Curtain, and 85 Bears.
All right, but that's our top 3 defenses of all time. If you ever want to know, if we would like to know yours at least, you can post them at the comments below when this video is posted. This is Timothy Claiborne, Xylon Honeycutt. Xanti has already been on here. We'll see you next week for week 5 of Pick 6.
I'll say 28-14.
And Xanti?
29.
To what?
15.
Okay, 29-15. Darius Bryant, DeMarco Murray, Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston. Redo it.
Ball down the field, we got Brandon Cooks, Marcus Colston, Jimmy Graham, all those different receivers to go to.
And I want to know the truth about football. Why do they
Oh my gosh.